And good evening now. Thanks for being with us. After a 2-week break, it is time to dive into politics with our insiders. Antoine Seawright, the Democratic strategist, Dave Wilson, our Republican strategist. March Madness got you guys bumped for a couple of weeks, but you're back. With your own brand
we have
of
political
March
madness that goes on. So, I mean,
real March
Madness has already been going on all for the last 2 weeks.
Well, let's talk about some of that madness, because it appears tonight that Dominion deal, their proposed deal to buy SCANA, is on the rocks tonight. And this is not a surprise, because we said a couple of months ago that if lawmakers decided to cut the SCE&G bills, cut that money that Dominion was depending on down the road with this merger deal, that the deal could be in trouble. The House voted to do it, but the Senate has delayed a final vote on whether or not they're going to do it until after the Easter break.
They saw what was happening yesterday with SCANA stock, and as it was starting to tumble, and they basically buoyed it up and gave it a bit of a safety net. The thing that we've got, JR, is the fact that ratepayers who are sitting at home right now on a Thursday night at 7 o'clock don't have a safety net like that they're having to fall into. That's where I think you've got to have a move that's taken place within the legislature to bring some level of a guarantee. But the thing about it is, it's going to have to be on the backs of SCANA, Santee Cooper, and those who have been responsible for this to absorb some of this cost and stop passing it along to stockholders instead of ratepayers.
There's so much to unpack with this, but there are a few things we have to just be straight up honest about. Number one, there is no other deal on the table. Dominion and the SCANA proposed merger is the only deal. SCANA accepted the proposed deal. The government or the legislature cannot tell a private entity what to do. The only thing they can do is put roadblocks or barriers in the way to prevent the deal from going through. Number two, whatever is done, they have to be very sensitive to what the court will say, because the legislature can pass whatever legislation they want to get reelected, right. But it's going to be sent to the court, and so we could be in a court battle for years on top of years, and this issue will never get away. So there has to be some sensitivity about that part. And the other thing is, I think we have to get past this window called filing for re-election. Let's see how that shakes out, and then I believe boys and girls, men and women, children of all ages will get together, do something reasonable and respectful that ratepayers can live with, that I think the Dominion, the SCANA, and all the other parties can live with, and something will somewhat put this issue to rest. Until then, yeah. I think we're going to be back and forth, mumble jumble, House, Senate, Democrat, Republican. It's going to be this mumble jumble.
And to help people at home understand what this actually means is, to be able to run for office, you have to file for office, and that closes tomorrow at noon.
Right.
So we're going to know by tomorrow whether or not members of the legislature, the House of Representatives, because the senators are not back up for re-election yet, we're going to know whether or not they're going to have opposition, and that tends to make them a little bit more willing to negotiate or not negotiate, depending upon whether or not they've got opposition to run.
Dominion has made it pretty clear, though. They're saying if you cut that money, if you cut the bills, if you cut that chunk of money out, we're probably going to walk.
I think it's ludicrous for anyone to believe, and I appreciate Senator Massey and Senator Setzler, and even some of the House members who are very honest and realistic about this. I think it's unrealistic to think that the ratepayers will not share some burden going forward. I think that's impossible to do a deal or to make people whole without them sharing some bit of the responsibility. I do think there is some room, some wiggle room for power bills to be cut, in which the Dominion deal calls for, but also give the ratepayers some money back and give them some assurance that lawmakers have done something in the name of doing the right thing.
So part of the discussion that also has to go into account here is what else is being done in the energy realm. You've got solar energy bills that have been moving forward but are hitting these roadblocks in the legislative process.
Because of re-election and
because you've got a situation right now where you have the utilities are a powerhouse. I mean, they take our money for the power that they produce, but they use that money as well to wield influence at the State House. And in doing so, they are trying to ignore other opportunities for energy production, like solar, like renewable energies, where we've currently got a cap of 2%. That is the maximum that independent power producers like solar and biofuels can provide onto the grid. And you've got folks like SCANA right now who are saying, listen, we can't do that right now. We've got to take our money because that's how our investors get their money back. The investors of the ratepayers are the ones that really need to have some options that are out there, and we've got to clear the table for that.
There's been a big lobbying effort on behalf of Dominion to get this deal finalized and get it signed basically on the dotted line. Is this going to happen before lawmakers go home this year?
Jared, I would not call it lobbying. I would call it an education effort. Dominion is being introduced to the community, and they are trying to educate the public on what they want to do. That's number one. Number two, there's oil and water that's going to hit somewhere along this argument or this debate, and that is Governor McMaster has doubled down on his comments that he will not sign any bill that does not give money back to the ratepayers or does not lower rates. That's going to be virtually impossible. So we may end up, because of politics, because of the governor's race in November, we may end up with a situation where the General Assembly come to some agreement, but the governor vetoes, and then we're in another big fight.
I think, just like we were talking about roads this time last year, and the roads debate just kept going on and on and on, I think we're going to be here at the beginning of next year still talking about what's going to be done when it comes to your power bills, Santee Cooper, and SCANA.
That could be problematic because Dominion has a timeline, I think, in their agreement with SCANA that this deal has to be done somewhere around the end of the year. So it could be problematic.
Right. And that's where you just got to understand there is a long process that's going on with this.
And meanwhile, we've got viewers calling us. Am I going to get my $1,000? Am I going to get my lower rates?
You know, I'm going to call tonight to ask you the same question because I need mine.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we have other issues to talk about. Can felons own handguns in South Carolina? A Senate Judiciary Committee killed a proposal on that. We'll talk about that. Also, medical marijuana. Will it pass this year? Those issues and more coming up in just a few moments.